Welcome, everyone, watching, listening, however, to the final half hour of our trade deadline live show. This is the recap half hour of basically the trade deadline as a whole, and not just Thursday. This is also the portion of the show that's going to be released on traditional pod channels immediately. I'll probably get the rest of the show out on pod channels maybe overnight or something like that, because I don't know how many people want to sit through 5 hours of other content, but people are always like, Dan, put it out there. Well, give us the choice. Okay, fine. You can have the choice. If you skip it, I'm totally fine with that. I am joined for this final half hour recap breakdown by my co-host and good buddy, Adam King. Kingy, we call him Adam King 91 on social media. Podcast Pierre, Steve St. Pierre, the other half of the Menace Pod Men. You are a Menace Pod man. We talked to Scott earlier in the program. And of course, my bathroom buddy, Alex Rickleen. Welcome to the show. Rickleen on social media, Rikleen. Alex, I haven't had officially a chance to say hi to you. And frankly, Steve, I didn't really have a chance to say hi to you either, because we were just staring at the screen, seeing what might happen in the last moments before the deadline. By the way, nothing was the answer to that. Nothing in the last moments. I've been doing compliments to everybody that comes on the program today. So, Steve, let's see. First of all,
take your time.
No. There's
got
so
to be
many.
something in there.
I'm like picking one. I'm picking between hair, facial hair, sweatshirt. There's a lot to like here, so I'm just gonna go with the overall. Steve, your overall right now is just spot on.
Appreciate it, Bells.
You bring
Likewise.
you bring a powerful presence to a podcast, and I'm so grateful to have you.
I'm just trying to follow your lead.
Rickleen, my compliment to you this fine day is, first of all, as always, I love the things that we share. I love the things that we share. And I always love that you bring a certain willingness to take shots on a podcast. That's my favorite, man. You go on these things and you put your foot down. So always compliments for everybody. Kingy, you already got your compliment. It was for the hair, but I love your hair these days. So here's what we're going to do. Trade deadline as a whole, because it's over now. We got some more information on the Marcus Smart trade. The Wizards also got Colby Jones, Alex Len from the Kings in that deal, and the Kings got Jake LaRavia. So that was the remaining piece of that multi-team deal. I didn't see who tweeted the rest of it, but that's the other pieces on that one. But Steve, I'll come to you because you've been on here for like 10 minutes and I haven't really had a chance to bug you about anything yet. Trade deadline as a whole, we'll do fantasy favorites, basically. And I think that'll probably chew up about 20 minutes by the time all four of us are done. Podcast_Pierre, who are your fantasy big winners? The guys that you're now racing out and definitely using a roster move on, because we don't have to worry about saving the moves anymore.
Well, I was all set to give a shout out to my good friend and my co-host Scott Keller for his guy Moussa Diabate, but then the Hornets went out and got Yusuf Nurkic. However, I'm going to actually continue to support Diabate as an ad. I'm not sold on Yusuf Nurkic. I know that the Hornets went out and got him. I'm not sold that they're going to keep him. Maybe there's a buyout coming. I think he's got one more year on his contract, so I don't know. It might be a tough sell for him. But in any case, I'm not 100% sold that they're just going to roll him out every single game for the rest of this season.
I think they were much more interested in acquiring his teammate, the draft pick.
Exactly. And we all know how it goes this time of year anyways. These teams that are tanking or just plummeting in the standings, they're just going to start doing stuff for no rhyme or reason. I mean, they'll look at different options and stuff, and Diabate is a young guy. I'm not saying that he has any kind of superstar potential or anything like that, but it makes a lot more sense for these teams that are younger and kind of in evaluation modes to look at younger guys that are more unproven. This is an opportunity for those guys to get more minutes and more opportunities.
My only concern with Diabate, have we heard anything about whether they're going to transition him off a two-way. He's already at 41 games. Doesn't he only have 9 left?
That's true.
I agree. For the next 9 games, I would prefer him to Nurkic easily without question. But unless he gets extended, doesn't he only have, I forget if it's, I think it's 50.
You're right. No, he does. He's on a two-way still, so they do need to take care of that. I anticipate that they will. You're right, though. It's possible that they don't, and obviously, if they don't, that only helps Nurkic. But I'm not running out and grabbing Nurkic. If he's available in a league, and you've got an open spot, you can do that because obviously we've seen when he does play, he can produce. Especially in certain situations, depending on your team, depending on your league, and stuff like that. But as a whole, I'm not super sold on him yet, and I'm not super sold on this team looking like it's going to stay the way that it is right now. So that's just me.
The Wizards have 900 players on their team, I think, is what I counted now. I don't.
Yep.
So, at Rickling, I'll come to you next. Who are your favorites from the last 4 or 5 days? Who's your big winners?
I don't want to toot my own horn too much, but
one of the guys blow the whistle.
One of the guys I highlighted here last week, and you said, is he too deep to even bother picking up as a stash? Buzelis.
Yeah, he's jumped a long way.
I think Buzelis might be my favorite winner. I love that guy. I love that guy, and they just opened a ton of court time for him. I don't think they've had their full roster yet, but 31 and 29 minutes in the last 2 games. I think it's still TBD what happens when incoming players arrive, but I'm trying to look at their last game to even see. Nah, they kind of have everyone. Looks like everyone who might be active was active except Lonzo Ball for the last game. How many minutes is Taylor Horton-Tucker going to take up? So yeah, I kind of think Buzelis might be my favorite super widely available guy in terms of big winners. Obviously there are dozens. We'll talk about a bunch, but I think he's my favorite right now.
Kingy, who are your favorites from the whole deadline?
I like Buzelis as well. I think I may have mentioned him on your show as well. I don't remember.
I have a laundry list of these things. I just can't remember what the.
Yeah, I think I did. And look, anyone that listens to me, he's probably not available because I've been sort of talking him up for a few weeks now. So I like him. I think not as certain on this one, but Dalton Connect. I just think with the moves the Hornets have made, he's going to at least get an opportunity. Sure. Somehow Nikola Vucevic is a winner because he wasn't traded again. Somehow Jordan Clarkson wasn't moved. The Blazers made no moves. So mediocrity is a winner, I think, for a few of these teams. If you go for the Bulls or the Blazers, and I know I have a Blazers. One of my mates is a Blazers fan, and he is going to be waking up to a whole lot of disappointment this morning. But yeah, look, on the whole, I think Steve makes a very good point in that if we look at this as a week-long thing, it was an amazing trade deadline. Yeah. And I do wonder if this is going to set a trend now next year after that. Are we going to have to do a trade deadline show that runs for a week? Because a lot more happened, I feel like, than in previous years.
I'm going to need pee breaks on that show, guys. Build in some pauses.
Next year's trade deadline spectacular that runs from, I don't know. Yeah, when was the Luka trade?
That was Saturday night. That would be your Sunday afternoon, I guess.
So we're doing a 5 to 6 day trade deadline spectacular.
Oh yeah, at least 5 hours every single day.
And I think this is actually not the first year of it. I'm double checking, but I actually think last year the biggest trade or a couple of the biggest trades were before
in January.
The deadline as well.
Yeah, they were. I think the Anunoby one. I think the Siakam one. I think those might have been in January, if I'm remembering right, last year.
Yeah, I just pulled up the page, so give me 2 seconds.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense because like teams are gonna, if they're gonna go get a guy they like, you want to get him for as long as possible. And it's funny that Steve Kerr came out yesterday and was like, a trade deadline needs to be later by the All-Star break. Like, dude, we had it like that for decades, and teams were like, this is too goddamn late. I'm trading for someone and they get to play on my team for 4.5 weeks. Make it earlier.
Well, they used to do it. They used to do it after All-Star, and so they were complaining that it was really awkward because then, like, they would,
they'd come back,
and then, like, yeah.
I
don't think there's any perfect time. I mean, it's always going to be awkward when you make these trades. These players have to, kind of uproot. But, like I said, for me personally, I'm spinning it as this has been a really fun one. Had a really good time following everything, listening to you guys. It's been a blast. So.
Daniel Tice just got waived by the Thunder, so that was an unusual series of things there. I have no idea.
Doesn't he help them?
Well, Chet's back now, so they got Chet. That they're.
Why did they make that move? Contract stuff, I'm sure.
Contract. Did they get a pick in that deal or no? They have so many other picks; it really doesn't matter for that.
I thought they gave up a pick.
Yeah, I think they have given one out. They just literally
they just needed to get rid of one of their picks.
Yeah, they went full Oprah on that, and they just were like, "You get a pick," and we don't even want the guy you're sending back. I don't understand that one.
It was 2 years ago. The Kyrie deal was 2 days before the deadline. Because Siakam was like 3 weeks before the deadline, so that feels a little different. But 2 years ago, the Kyrie trade was 2 days before. So that was, arguably one of the biggest deals of two deadlines ago.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that there were a few in January last year. I don't remember which guys exactly, but no, I mean, it makes sense. This is the way it should have been a long time is teams going to get the guys that they want early enough to acclimate them and see what they do. But Steve, you're 100% right. But I did say this to my wife as we were getting into bed last night. I was like, I'm a little worried that like everything happened already, because she was like, but it's like, you just said that Mark Williams is a Laker. Like, you sound excited about that. I'm like, yeah, I am excited about that, but I want all of these things to happen during the 5 hours that I'm on air. Because
ratings wise it helps, but we have a lot to talk about. So
so my favorites, so you guys don't think that I'm leaving myself out of this thing. A lot of these guys are rostered already. Bilal, I think, was one of the big winners during this trade deadline. Getting Kuzma out of the way was a huge one for having him more of like a feature ball handling role. Heavily rostered, but also heavily dropped in a lot of leagues when he was really, really bad. So you never know. Might have been able to scoop him over the last couple of weeks. Io on the Bulls, same kind of thing. Had been playing a lot of minutes, but getting Zach LaVine out of the way increased the actual usage when he's on the floor. So kind of actually similar for both of those guys, where the minutes were there, but the touches weren't quite where they needed to be. Lonzo, same kind of thing. He's been sort of slowly ramping up, and Zach LaVine being gone. Dalton Connect was the next guy on my list, and I went back and forth on this one a bunch last night, but I ended up settling on Dalton because of a Ramona Shelburne tweet that came out late last night about the Hornets approaching the Lakers asking about Connect. And so there's this like, did you want this guy or did you take this guy? And that sort of kind of pushed more in the like, they wanted this dude, and the Hornets are so thin and weird that like, if you got a relative, Connect's not super young, but young-ish guy who can go jack up a bunch of shots and maybe make some of them and get hot from three and make everybody excited for a couple of minutes in their game, I think that's probably a guy that you end up playing. Buzelis, he makes the list. Again, I was afraid of him before, but Chicago showing that they're willing to play him, even though they're not trading the rest of their veterans. I don't understand. Keon Ellis made my list. We haven't talked a ton about him. Jake LaRavia coming to Sacramento. I know they don't play the same position, but getting another competent backup might blow up the Keon Ellis thing. I was higher on him before this trade, although they sent out Colby Jones and Alex Len, and I don't really care about that. But when Herter and Fox were gone, but only one guy came in, it felt like maybe Ellis could get like 9 Herter minutes. Probably not as much anymore. That one likely moves off my list after this. The last trade basically to come through kind of screwed that one up. Brandon Podziemski was on my list last night as someone that may win out. That might not last through a Jonathan Kuminga return. But at least right now, the Warriors thinned the herd. They traded 4 guys out basically and got 1 guy back for the most part. So that's minutes that are available, and it's always good when the herd gets thinned. And finally, Yusuf freaking Nurkic, who is one of my least favorite players to be associated with in any way. I trashed him maybe more than anybody leading up to the start of the season, but the games that he plays, and some of this helps that I'm a games cap guy. He's not going to play every day in Charlotte, but I think he will play sometimes because he's a guy that does now need to prove to the league that he's a better on-court positive than headache negative, because he's gone, that needle's swung hard to the too big of a headache. And this is just the kind of place to do it. Go rehab your value for a couple of months and maybe somebody will take a shot on you. So that's my monologue on players that I like.
Marvin Bagley just got moved. There you go.
Really? We had one at 20 minutes past the hour?
There's a way to close out a trade deadline.
Well, that was actually, that hits on one that I was going to ask about that we hadn't talked about at all is the Washington front court. Because not one of us has mentioned any of the Washington bigs. And I do think Jonas leaving is kind of a big deal. Like, I don't know if Sarr is too widely rostered to count as a winner for our purposes.
No, he's a winner, man. He definitely wins.
Well, yeah, he's definitely a winner. I don't know if it's helpful for us to talk about him or if he's just already on enough rosters that everyone listening already it doesn't help them. But especially if Bagley is now gone, then does Holmes finally get an extended opportunity to play? Like, are 14 teamers at least adding Richaun Holmes right now?
In the short term, absolutely. I have no idea what happens to him when Sarr comes back. But I guess we're again at that point, like, we're past the deadline. If you have roster moves to burn, you can use them on injury replacement level guys right now. It's not crazy anymore. Like, if you didn't get 3-4 guys you think are rest of season players, you can kind of pivot in a different direction. I'm assuming, Johnny Davis also to the Grizzlies in that deal. I don't even remember. Has he played at all this season for anyone?
Yeah, I think so. I think he actually
doesn't
got some minutes.
Johnny
Davis. He's averaging 7.1 minutes.
Heavy workload.
He played.
I think I mentioned earlier, I don't mind Vukcevic here as well. I think depending on what the Wizards want to do.
Agreed.
Richaun Holmes is there and started yesterday, but Vukcevic would make more sense as a let's throw him out. Let's see what we have in him.
Totally agree.
Sure.
Again, deep leagues, nothing sort of relevant for standard leagues, but he's someone now that they have cleared that path a little bit. We'll see what happens there in Washington.
I adore the fact that the Warriors did the Danny Ainge move here with the right after the deadline. Well, we tried a bunch of times on Vucevic, but we couldn't get there, guys. We really did. We tried. We came super close. I love the I'm super close right after the deadline, like, marketing spin by teams to try to save face. But they did get Jimmy Butler, so I don't know that they needed to pull that one out. We're probably only going to go about a 10-ish minutes or so more, mostly because I think I might perish after that point.
Could we spend 30 seconds on Keon Ellis? Only because I know I get a lot of questions about Keon Ellis on my show. And I talked about him yesterday because he played 28 minutes, and people are like, okay, we're good to go on him? And I sort of said pump the brakes, I think, because Malik Monk was in foul trouble yesterday.
Yeah.
And fantasy managers were worried. And why is Monk playing 24 minutes? Like, he as the NBA coaches tend to do, when someone gets in foul trouble, they just remove them from the rotation for a while, and then they don't end up fouling out.
Hate that.
So I'm not as sold on Keon Ellis, only because I think if he only played 26 minutes yesterday with Malik Monk playing 10 minutes less than what he's going to play, I'm not sure that path to 28 minutes that we were looking for is there at this point. I could be wrong, but I don't know what you guys think.
We've seen this all season long with him. He's been in and out. He's good when he plays. I mean, he's fairly consistent at both ends of the floor. And for the longest time, we were all saying he needs to be playing more. But now, with Levine coming in, they still have, DeRozan. Obviously, Sabonis is going to have the ball a lot. Even without a, quote unquote, natural point guard or floor leader, that ball is still going to move around a lot. So I think a guy like Ellis is going to be really inconsistent. Now, can you stream him or use him on days when he's playing? Sure. But is he a guy that I would run out right now and just, I got to add him and hold him? For me personally, no. If you're in a super deep league, Alex, like you were saying, if it's more of like a 14, 16 team league, maybe. But even then, I don't know, man. It's going to be really inconsistent, just like he has been all year.
Matty G from the land of infancy writes, I can't believe I left the show before the Bogdan trade. That I like for the Clippers. We got you, buddy. I got you on the show. Take care of the baby. You don't have to worry about us. Alex, go ahead.
The problem with Keon Ellis is he's much better in real life than he is for fantasy. Even if he gets to 28 minutes per game, it's not good enough for us. I love him as a player. I like watching him. But no, he's not a standard league guy at 28 minutes. Unless you need defense. He's a defensive specialist at 28 plus minutes per game. But we can't even count on him for 28 plus minutes per game. Most of you should be ignoring him. Deep leaguers, okay. People who need defense, okay. But most of you, that's not going to be you.
Yeah. And again, I think I was, I thought he had a chance to carve out a role, but with the Kings adding more, basically another rotation-ish level backup player, I think that probably squeezes it out a little bit too much as well. So let's go around the horn one last time here on Trade Deadline Thursday morning. Steve St. Pierre, podcast_Pierre, Menace Pod Man. That's singular. I singulared it. Your favorites, least favorites from the whole week of what has been, like you said, an absolutely insane 5 days, even if the last bit of it was kind of fizzling out a tad. So winners, losers, teams you're excited about, whatever you got, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, I mean, we'll get the obvious one out of the way. The Lakers, huge winners with Luka. But also, I think in the short term, I think Dallas got something that they really wanted. We kind of question a lot of the motives there, but at the end of the day, like they obviously thought Anthony Davis was a really good fit with the team that they have right now. They went out and paid Klay Thompson what they paid him. So he's there. He's not going anywhere. And so they've got those guys. They've got Kyrie, and that's kind of like their core, and I think they're just going to kind of go for it these next maybe like 2 seasons. And then eventually they'll have to blow things up and kind of restart, unless they find a way to get another like younger star, but that's going to be easier said than done. So both of those teams, obviously biggest trade maybe of all time. But going to like kind of today in the last couple days, again, kind of what we've all been saying. Alex, you said it at the top, and I know you've been saying it a lot, Buzelis. And really, I mean, you're wearing the red and black. The Bulls as a whole, I think just a lot of those guys, a lot of the same guys we've been mentioning. Ayo Dosunmu, I think, is a huge winner. He's a guy that if he's out there in any leagues, you can pick him up and use him probably the rest of the way. Lonzo Ball is a big winner in fantasy and in real life. I mean, he got a contract extension. He's healthy. They've said that they're lifting his restrictions a little bit. Now, I do have some concerns with him. I think he is going to still sit a lot of back-to-backs and stuff like that. But I think in general, he's a guy that you can pick up and own for the most part. So, and again, I say this all the time, but, it does depend on your team, your league, what you got going on with the standings and everything else. But in general, I think those guys are all winners.
Alex, same question for you.
I don't want to be a bummer, but like a bunch of guys that I've kind of been excited about, I think are losers as well. My battery's dying. Hold on. Let me save you. Okay, I'm here. No.
Oh, it's battery.
He'll be back.
We'll get him back.
We'll get him back, maybe. Kingy, winners, losers. Maybe the question I should have asked was, when this show ends and you can officially do something else without worrying about what the camera looks like, what are the like 2 or 3 things you're gonna do fantasy basketball related? Because I know that like I pulled up some tabs, checking in on a few guys that we've talked about today, see who's rostered, who isn't. What is the rest of your here's the things I'm gonna do and maybe you should do them too kind of day look like?
Yeah, non-fantasy, it's go and have a coffee and some breakfast. Fantasy,
yeah, good morning.
Related. Yeah, look, I think, and it's potentially where Alex was going with this, is that a few of the guys we were stashing or hoping for, they're not losers in the sense that they are going to get worse. They're just not going to take that jump that we thought they might.
Yeah,
Dayron Sharp is one that comes to mind for me because I really like him as a player, as a stash. I was hoping Claxton would be moved. That didn't happen. That's not to say they don't shut Claxton down or however we want to phrase that. So I am still holding Sharp because he's doing enough. And look, Alex is back. I will let Alex continue, and then I will continue.
That was an all-timer for the show. As he reaches for the as he reaches for the battery, it just vanishes. You blipped out. That was amazing. Do you remember what you were talking about when
I do. I do. I was talking about how problematic it is that my fully charged battery died in a half hour. I think that's what I was talking about. No, I was talking about how, I had been talking about especially Bryce Sensabaugh and on the Jazz as someone who I expected to really go off during the silly season and someone who I thought was worth saving, worth holding on to even while his minutes were down, because obviously the Jazz were going to trade. They were showcasing these players for a trade, and obviously they were going to make moves. And they kind of just didn't. I do still think that at some point they're going to shut down some of these players.
They are.
But I no longer, and so I think we got to be ready to go. We've got to be able to be quick on the uptake when those minutes come back for a player like Sensabaugh. But it's not worth holding him now. Whereas for 2 or 3 down games, I thought the upside was worth it. For question mark games, it is not. And so I think we kind of got to let go of him when he might have a lot of games, or maybe possibly the rest of the season, stuck in low minutes at the end of the bench. Same for Filipowski, his teammate, who I had been sort of touting as someone I was excited about. They both could be silly season all-stars, but I thought that might start tomorrow night. Similarly, Max Strus, I thought that as he got healthy, he might claim that 5th starter spot for the Jazz. That's out the window with DeAndre Hunter coming in. And both Martin brothers were sort of deeper league special or specialist type guys, but they were rosterable for a lot of people. And both Martin brothers got traded to situations where their fantasy value went down. So both Martin brothers suffered. And those are 5 players who I had been spending some time and energy talking up the last several weeks. And I think they were all deadline losers. Bummer, but and maybe the battery went out to punish me for being a downer. But
Kingy, you were sort of mid thought, and actually a similar thought to what Alex was talking about, of guys that we had sort of been hoping for, counting on, that ended up either doing nothing or going the wrong way.
Yeah, so it was same line of thinking, and Dayron Sharp was someone for me, like I said, who I was hoping. And unlike sort of Sensabaugh, I think he is sort of doing enough. He's playing 20, 22 minutes, which is sort of back end. He gets you some defensive stuff. But yeah, the Jazz guys, Scoot Henderson was another one. We were sort of hoping the Blazers would offload some pieces and just...
literally anybody in Portland. Donovan Clingan, that's troublesome. Robert Williams didn't get moved. Like, they're all intact.
Alex?
The Nets. I just realized the Nets. Were they...
Nothing.
Did they have a phone?
No.
No.
The
carrier pigeons.
Their phone was like a battery. It just died.
I was about to make the same joke. I think their phone has Alex's battery.
They were like, we have a trade-in.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law fell asleep at a rest stop while she was driving home a couple weeks ago. And there were a couple hours where I was having to talk my wife down. I was like, your mother's probably fine. She probably didn't die in a car crash, but like she should have gotten home by now. And like the whole family's like, have you heard from mom? Have you heard from mom?
That's terrifying.
I understand why they were scared. Has anyone checked in on the Nets? Are they okay? Did they fall asleep at the Maryland house?
Yeah, are they at a rest stop? Perhaps. No moves, just the D'Lo move.
Ben Simmons expiring contract. They couldn't get anything for that.
I mean, I wouldn't give anything for it.
Get the phone and try.
No, and I think that for me was one of the talking points, I suppose, of this deadline was the fact that the Nets, the Blazers, the Jazz, they did nothing.
They did
nothing.
Nothing.
They didn't. The Bulls, they got rid of Levine, but
the Jazz did stuff, but just very like minor.
Yeah.
Nothing that, as Alex said, he's going to free up these guys.
Right. They basically just took on second round picks to like reroute random old dudes from one team to another. Although I guess they have Jalen Hood-Schifino, so. But again, like the point is, we were all waiting on the like 3 or 4 Jazz regulars to be traded or shut down. We're waiting on the Blazers regulars to be traded or shut down. We're waiting on the Nets regulars to be traded or shut down. Nothing. And I'm particularly concerned, and then we'll wrap it up here because, guys, a man, and I won't name names, has consumed multiple bottles of water over the last almost 6 hours. But like, I was sitting on Robert Williams in like solid 50 to 60% of my leagues, thinking for sure they were going to move their third center. Nope. Cam John, but the Blazers are winning. So even if you're waiting on silly season, their wins are pushing that later and later. At least with the Jazz and the Nets, they've telegraphed things pretty good at this point. They're going to get their young dudes in there. The Blazers, they're celebrating Chauncey's 100th or 200th win or something. Everybody's all excited about victories. And if you're stashing Blazers, I think I would probably move to a new spot. But anyway,
Can I just say an under the radar winner here might be your old man Bladder, because the fact that you've done a 5.5 hour show, and have you had a toilet break?
Not one. No, I have.
Whoa,
I'm a very. Wow. So listen, I'm a small man. I'm 5'8" and change, and I weigh about $140. But I have the bladder. I mean, truly, I am a fragile. I've been referred to as a delicate bloom in my day. Old man Vesperus, like all the things that could possibly break down, but I can hold my pee with the best of them. That is
impressive.
Yeah, thank you.
That should be the thumbnail for this show. Is just you not sitting on the toilet.
Nope, not at all. Yeah, it's just gonna be me standing outside the bathroom going.
Yep.
Because I'm fine.
I have a thing that shows how many trades there were and then how many trips to the bathroom you had. Zero,
baby. Zero incidents.
Still going strong.
Even 2000, whatever. Gentlemen, I'm so appreciative of each of you. Steve St. Pierre of the Menace Podmen, podcast_Pierre. Thank you so much, dude. And I was just saying to Scott, we got to talk twice in like 2 days. This is amazing.
It's been an honor, privilege. All you guys, man. This has been fun. Like I said, I've been sitting here for a while myself, just listening, watching. It's been great.
Probably hoping for something more to break down. Rickling, we always have a damn blast. We managed to talk about a bathroom trip. It wasn't poop this time.
It wouldn't feel right if we didn't.
If we didn't do one. Alex, love you, bud. Thank you so much for coming on. Appreciate you every time you're on the show. And Kingy, dude, got up before dawn to do 2.5 hours of this nonsense with me. Adam, I am unbelievably grateful to you and David Williams over. I love everybody, but you guys doing half of the 5 hours with me was absolute lunacy. And everybody, check out all the stuff that these guys are doing. I'm going to do a big recap of everybody after I get you guys out of here. But guys, you're the best. Thank you so much for hanging out through the deadline.
Thanks for having me. Good to see you all.
Thanks, Dan.
So long, John. And now we move towards the wrap-up. The wrap-up. Somehow we got to this point. 5 hours and 40 minutes later, we arrive at the end of the line. I know that many of you are now tuning out. I would once again, at the very end of the show, please, if you made it this far and you haven't subscribed left, please do that. Subscribe to the show. And 2 partners on this show that didn't get a shout out earlier, but they definitely get it now. Bet Online. The Super Bowl is coming up. Nobody's talking about it because the NBA trade deadline has been so insane. But the Super Bowl is 3 days away right now, and you really legitimately wouldn't know it. But they've got hundreds of props for you over at Bet Online to get down on Super Sunday. MVP odds, in-game live betting, all that amazing stuff. It's the perfect time to go check out our buddies over at Bet Online today. Make that game day action count just a little bit more. Bet Online, the game starts here. I cannot say enough important and good things about our partnership with Bet Online. If it weren't for them, we would not be able to do the things that we're doing on this show. And basically, they're the reason that I can do all of this stuff for free. Yeah, YouTube ads, they're a couple dollars here and there. Bet Online and their partnership through the Believe Network and everything the Believe guys have done as well has made it so that my plan, which was start Old Man Squad and just put everything out there as much as humanly possible, maximize content, maximize the platform for all my buddies in the fantasy space. Bet Online is the reason we can do that. So please do check them out. And check out our buddies over at underdogfantasy.com. We're not going to do a card on today's show because I got to get into the wrap-up or I'm literally going to explode over here. Yes, from urine. You guys put the pieces together on that. Underdogfantasy.com. Use promo code OLDMAN, OLDMAN, or click on the link. I don't know if it's in this show description. I think I threw it in there, but if I forgot, the referral link is in all of our other show descriptions. So if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you'll be able to find it in all of them. Or again, underdogfantasy.com. Use the promo code OLDMAN. Unlock up to $1,000 in deposit match bonus, a free play, and some other stuff at the end. It's weird that someone in the chat room would tell me to stop yapping at the end of a 5.5 hour show. But I appreciate the sentiment. I will stop yapping. Don't worry about that. For me, here is on your screen. You can see the trade deadline live tracker. This link is in the show description if you guys want to go see it. It just tracks all the trades that went down today. It does not have the what does it mean. By the way, it sounds like Jalen Hood-Schifino is going to get waived by the Utah Jazz. That's part of all of that other stuff. It doesn't change very much for trade deadline stuff, but that's the sort of last thing to trickle in. Again, subscribe to Old Man Squad on the YouTube page. Hit that like button on this show. Hit that like button on anything. You can find me on Twitter at Dan Bespris. Old Man Squad is the handle over on the Blue Sky Network. But here, we'll scroll through this very slowly as we head towards the wrap-up. Again, my biggest winners, we've talked about them at the beginning of this sort of last half hour. But, thinking through a lot of it, Bilal and Io, guys that were largely rostered but got a really nice bump. Same with Lonzo Ball. Dalton Connect saw a nice bump. Matas Buzelis saw a nice bump. I think Brandon Pajemski got himself a bump. When Nurk plays, that's a bump. Who am I forgetting here? We had some other ones that floated in. I will do a tweet on this as we go as well. So there will be some wrap-up action over on social media. And I hope you guys will follow me over there while we do it. So again, thank you to, here we go, guys. There were a lot of them. All the amazing analysts. Biggest thank yous to David Williams and Adam King for each doing half the show with me. That is a lot. It is a lot to sit on a live show with no commercial breaks for 2.5 straight hours. I do it twice. So believe me, I know it's actually more than that now. Thank you to Noah Rubin, Daniel McKee, and Dan Palio, the first guest we had on the show. My good buddy Josh Millman, who hung out with us for an hour between 8 and 9. Mike Catron, Watch the Boxes. Dan Titus of Yahoo Sports. Noah, of course, is over at RotoWorld. Daniel McKee, multiple podcasts between two hoops. He's NBA Fantasy Bible. Thunder Dan, former FSWA Basketball Writer of the Year and Grand Poobah of all sports over at Rotoballer. Scott Keller and Steve St. Pierre, the Menace Podmen, not together on this one. Matty G, NBA G Wiz of Insight. Adam G Stock of Elite Fantasy Basketball. Mike Barner at Roto Mike Barner. Who am I forgetting here? I had the list in front of me, and I know I'm screwing this up. Crap. Hold on. We can do all of this. Corbin Ford, Alex Rickling. Those guys were in the later portions of the show. I almost screwed that up as well. Mike Barner, of course, is over at RotoWire, as is Alex Rickling. Corbin, you can catch over with, actually, he's at a bunch of different places, hanging with my buddy Stephen Bagel, Swish Theory, The Lead, all that good stuff. Just a huge thank you to all those dudes. And thank you to all of you for hanging out with us here on Trade Deadline Thursday. I know we were looking for more craziness on this actual Thursday morning. We got craziness all week long. Stay tuned again for more over on social media, where I'll try to break some more of this stuff down kind of piecewise throughout the rest of the afternoon and evening. I am Dan Bespris, almost 6 hours deep. Whew. Good gracious. Let's all take a break. What do they say? Everybody else wants to do the pencils down thing. Pencils down, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you guys on social.